Coming up on Mountain News this morning, an Eastern Kentucky high school sees a jump in students who use nicotine products, and Governor Andy Beshear holds what could be his final weekly COVID-19 briefing.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning to you. It is 6 o'clock here. I'm Dakota Makris, and it's Tuesday. Let's take it over to Brandon for a look at our forecast. And Brandon, I feel like it should be like Thursday, but it's Tuesday.
Nope.
So.
This week kind of dragging by.
It really, honestly, I was talking with someone in Hazard yesterday, someone that you and I both know, and she said that even Monday morning for her was a drag to get out of bed.
Listen, it's that time change. It's a time change.
Well, Brandon, bring up legislation,
no,
and we'll vote on it.
We're in the minority on this one, Dakota.
True.
But hopefully everybody kind of gets past this here in the next little bit. But we're going to see again some tired people out there in the next couple of days. We're going to see conditions up on top of US 119 on Whitesburg Pine Mountain. There's still some snow up there this morning as you head out the door, but for the most part, everybody looking pretty good out there this morning. The sensor is out, but it is cold out there in some spots. Now, those ridges at the airports at Rowan County there and at Wendell Ford, all right, not Wendell Ford, Julian Carroll at Jackson there, Wendell Ford sensor is out this morning, but you see that we're seeing temperatures near 50 degrees. So over toward Clintwood, it's in the upper 20s, low 30s down in Harlan and Middlesboro, and then upper 40s to 50 there across parts of the area. So 58 is our average high this time of the year. 67 is our forecast time for today. 81 was the record set back on this day in 1990. Dakota?
All right, Brendan, thank you. Well, brain injury is a leading cause of death and disability in the United States. At least 3 million Americans suffer from a traumatic brain injury each year. Lewis Ferguson, an 18-year-old from Louisville, was involved in a severe car crash on October 11th, 2020. The crash was so severe that it caused him to have a traumatic brain injury. Lewis is sharing his story as March is Brain Injury Awareness Month. U of L Health Fraser Rehabilitation Institute was the team that worked on Lewis's case.
People like Lewis are often written off, and their families are told, you know, he's going to have to go home completely dependent. He may have to go to a nursing home. But by having a program like ours, we show people that, you know, life goes on, and although you may not be exactly what you were, you still are pretty special, and Lewis is very special in our eyes.
Neurologists report that car crashes still remain one of the top reasons people have traumatic brain injuries, especially among young Americans. A recent study by the CDC suggests pandemic-related stress may be causing some teens to turn to vaping. The study found more than 2.5 million students use e-cigarettes. Pike County Central High School principal Dr. Timothy Klein says he noticed an increase in students vaping after they came back to in-person classes. Well, the problem was so bad, he introduced a device called a halo in the bathrooms.
That are mounted in the ceiling, sort of like a smoke detector, but they warn us air quality index changes, temperature changes, any tobacco or vape, any of those chemicals. It shows up right here immediately, and we know. So we've been able to curb it quite a lot.
The school has also pushed for a reformative response to students who are caught vaping at the school, as opposed to the usual one-day suspension. Governor Andy Beshear addressed the state of COVID-19 in the Commonwealth at his last weekly briefing Monday afternoon, but it took a different tone. Our Zach Hawk has the latest on the Omicron wave and what lies ahead with the pandemic.
A 7-week-long trend of declining COVID-19 cases is continuing across the Commonwealth. But Governor Beshear says we still have some struggles to overcome.
Remember, we were moving to a better place when Delta was receding and then Omicron hit. So we've got to be humble in that we are not finally through the pandemic yet, but we hope we are well on our way.
Even as Eastern Kentucky counties lag behind most of the state, the majority of metrics are improving. As conditions get better, Governor Beshear says it is time for briefings to take a back seat.
We will now pause our Monday COVID press conferences, hoping to never have to unpause them.
However, the governor highlights federally funded programs that may come to an end without alternate funding sources, likely from the General Assembly.
Number one, we could not support the test to stay in our public schools beginning this fall. We think with where things are now, we can get through the end of the school year.
The governor lists other programs as threatened: monoclonal antibody treatment centers, community-based testing targeting areas that experience spikes in hospitalizations, testing in long-term care facilities, and PPE stockpiling.
This is about us being able to support things like testing and PPE and actual treatment if you get it.
The governor also announced an official end to the National Guard mission supporting Kentucky's hospitals. Zach Hawk, WYMT Mountain News.
Future federal funding of COVID programs is possible. President Joe Biden reiterated plans to request additional COVID-19 funds in his State of the Union address. However, Senator Mitch McConnell joined other Republicans on a letter to the president requesting an accounting of how officials have allocated trillions in taxpayer funds so far. Well, a ceremony at the state capitol rotunda was held to honor the work of the Children's Advocacy Center of Kentucky. Governor Beshear and the Children's Advocacy Centers of Kentucky recognized the people who helped investigate and prosecute child abuse cases. They were each given a cap and plaque. These honorees were also in the spotlight for their compassion and helping children move on with a life of healing. Those awarded were nominated by members of their community.
Being that advocate, being that voice for a child who's been abused is very important in our field, and we want to lift those folks up who do that.
Former Fayette County Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson, who died this past August, was honored yesterday afternoon for his work as the founder of the Children's Advocacy in Lexington. His wife Betty was there yesterday in his place. Well, do you leave the lights on or the TV when you sleep? New research suggests that's bad for your health, your heart. Elise Preston shows us why you may want to shut the blinds when it's time for shut-eye.
We know a good night's sleep is good for our health. Now, new research suggests you should close the blinds and curtains and turn down all the lights before bed.
Do you prefer lights on or lights off?
Lights off. I just think I would sleep better that way.
A new study from Northwestern Medicine shows being exposed to even moderate light during sleep can harm cardiovascular function and increase insulin resistance, which are risk factors for heart disease, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome.
When you're sleeping with the lights on, your heart rate goes up during the entire night while you're sleeping. And then the next day, your glucose measurements, it showed that more insulin had to be secreted to be able to bring your glucose to a normal level.
Exposure to artificial light during sleep is common. It's estimated up to 40% of people sleep with the TV on or a bedside lamp or light on in the bedroom.
Researchers say get lots of bright light during the day. That can help protect you from some of the light that comes in during the night and improve your sleep through your circadian rhythms.
Dr. Phyllis Z is lead author of the study.
About 2 hours before you actually go to bed, start dimming it down. And then in your room, be aware of the light sources. Be aware of that and try to block that out.
Block outdoor light with blackout shades or eye masks. Keep color in mind. Red or orange light is less stimulating for the brain, so keep white or blue light away from the bed. And if you need a light in the bedroom, make it dim and close to the floor. Dr. Z says if you're able to see things really well in your bedroom, it's probably too light. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Researchers also remind you to keep safety in mind with the dark room, especially for older adults. Kentucky's bourbon industry produced more than $9 billion for the Commonwealth in the past year. From 2021 to 2020, the industry has supplied more than 22,000 jobs for Kentuckians. And this past week, the Kentucky House passed a bill promoting a popular piece of the industry. House Bill 500 creates guidelines for distillers to sell exclusive bottles of bourbon on site. The bill also puts limits on how much can be sold. That bill is now headed to the Senate. Well, a historic building no longer stands in Madison County. Richmond's Armory building on 2nd Street came down yesterday. The Richmond Register reports it was built in 1942. The National Guard sold it to the city in the late 1970s. It housed the Richmond Parks and Recreation Department. And the paper reports a new park will be built in this area. It will include a basketball court and a veterans memorial.
6:09 here on this Tuesday morning, Monday 2.0. We're continuing to track some cold temperatures out there this morning, but not as cold as yesterday. 29 Clintwood, 50 Jackson and Moorhead, 40 in London, 48 Prestonsburg this morning. Kind of giving you a regional view there. Temperatures anywhere between, let's say, 4 and 13 degrees warmer this morning in some spots. So getting there at least. 67 this afternoon with a mix of sun and clouds. As we look ahead for the rest of the week, we are going to see a mild trend continue for a few more days, but scattered rain chances come on Wednesday, and a cold front brings possibilities anyway for some more rain, maybe even a few storms there on Friday, and then we're a little cooler as we head into the last weekend of winter. Dakota?
All right, Brendan, thank you so much. Coming up next, Ukraine continues to experience almost constant shellings from Russia as the two countries prepare for another round of peace talks. That's on the way.